Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It has been a real warm couple of days and it's mild and gorgeous this morning. So, while Fred is not able to join us, I am going to share his reminder to make sure that you're getting out in the sun today for at least 30 minutes and enjoying it while it's nice in Pittsburgh, or wherever you are in Southwest PA. This morning, I'm really excited to have two women who are um, just wonderful. Two of the hardest working people that I've met and who I constantly see out at events in the community, not necessarily as participants, but as hosts or leaders or tabling, and really making sure that folks really know the right way to get involved. And for today's topic, we're going to be speaking about Hazelwood, current updates, initiatives, and pathways to get involved. And I say pathways because one thing that I really admire about Terri and Lori is that there are community informed projects and then there are community benefiting projects. And I think a pathway is a much better word to describe the community first intention and attitude behind making sure that what comes into Hazelwood is right for Hazelwood and led by the members of those communities that make up the various neighborhoods. So with that, I'm going to go into a very brief agenda. So these calls for community solutions, for anyone who may not be familiar, this is your first call, really originated in March of 2020 as an opportunity to share resources and updates, and also a place to provide kind of rapid response, like thought sharing, resource sharing support during the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the course of the last few years, 4 years, over 4 years at this point, the goal of these meetings has become more to understand short and long-term opportunities, needs, and input from the nonprofit community in Southwest PA, because we've asked on a weekly basis, and we will share a poll at the end of this meeting about the cadence or the topics that folks would like to hear. And we keep hearing that these calls should happen weekly and keep focused around the sustainable development goals and the social determinants of health. Those are our two frameworks that the Forbes Funds operates under. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals give us pathways to global initiatives and help us use common language, not only around the goals for work, but also how to get there. I was reading some like personal development books this weekend, and one of the quotes that really stuck out to me is that people have the same goals, so the difference in success and failure can't be the goals, it's the work that gets there. And so when you're thinking about good health and well-being, everybody wants good health and well-being, but the UN SDGs provide a framework not only for the actual goals themselves, but the KPIs and the metrics to get there sustainably and collaboratively. And so as we're encouraging that among the nonprofits in Southwest PA, really bringing that global perspective to the hyper-local work that's happening here is extremely important. Secondly, the social determinants of health give us a way to kind of bucket the work that's happening already, because anybody who's done community development work knows that just because something is new and bright and shiny works somewhere else doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to work here. And you have to appreciate and honor the work that has happened to a point as well. And so looking at what resources and assets have been created in these 5 buckets and how they can work together and work differently and work better as we continue to innovate is extremely important as well. And finally, the 8 R's are the how behind the Forbes Funds work. So we understand monetarily the return on investment for an initiative, but looking at how do we change our equity principles, or how do we appreciate our assets, or how do we look at specific policies to get this work done? Because money and power are strong drivers of work that takes place and where success happens, but the relationships that you're building with elected officials, with funders, with members of the community, making sure that efforts are sustainable and that you're really leveraging, again, the work that's going well in the first place, all have to be part of that conversation. And so that's really what the genesis of the 8 R's of our work is. So Without further ado, I'm going to get into the quick bios of our speakers today. So Elder Terri Shields is a passionate and dedicated individual who serves as the founder and executive director of JADA House International. This nonprofit organization empowers people and generations. With 10 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, Terri has a proven track record of success in developing and implementing programs that make a meaningful impact on the lives of those in need. Her commitment to intentionally empower generations has been a driving force in her career. She has worked tirelessly to create opportunities for generations, young and old, to access education, healthcare, employment, and other resources that help them achieve their full potential, especially our youth. Her innovative approach to problem solving has helped change lives. Terri strongly advocates for gender equality and has been recognized for her leadership and contributions to the field. As founder and executive director of JADA House International, Terri is committed to continuing her work to create communities where generations, young and old, are empowered to live healthy and sustainable lives. She inspired those around her as a shining example of what we can accomplish when we work together to make a difference, healing a community one person at a time. So this bio mentions JADA House International, but Terri is also the coordinator for Making a Greater Hazelwood currently and is on the GPNP advisory team and co-chair to the Public Policy Committee. Lori has over 30 years of experience dedicated to empowering individuals and communities. Her career has been defined by roles that support and motivate change, utilizing her talents to foster positive transformation in people, businesses, and communities. She's made significant contributions through her community work with organizations like the United Way of Southwest PA, the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh, and the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, as well as through her service on various boards and committees. Lori's commitment to collective growth was especially evident during her decade-long tenure as project director and community mobilizer in the city of Duquesne, where she led initiatives to prevent youth problem behaviors and improve community health. In 2015, she co-founded DLOJ LLC, and Lori, please correct me on the pronunciation of that. And later Main Street, a nonprofit aimed at mitigating economic disparities and promoting youth economic mobility. Lori holds degrees in organizational leadership from Geneva College and business management from the Community College of Allegheny County. She currently resides on Hazelwood, Pittsburgh, PA, continuing her legacy of community engagement and improvement. So I'm sure this is going to be evident throughout the presentation, but I really want to call out not only the various sectors and experiences and just wealth of knowledge that these two women have, but also the focus on empowering and bringing up the others around them and their whole rising tides approach. So with that, I will ask the folks who are on this call to please put your name, organization in the chat so we can engage and get going. Please feel free to ask questions, and I will turn it over to Terri to begin the conversation this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Emily, for persuasion. Thank you. But my name is Terri Shields, Elder Terri Shields, and I am the founder and executive director of JADA House International, and I am a lifelong resident of Hazelwood. And what I'm passionate about is people, old, young, whomever, just people in general, and trying to make a difference in their lives. Why Hazelwood? Because that's where I'm from. And it's not just Hazelwood that I service, it's just wherever I can service in the community in the city of Pittsburgh, that's what we do as far as the seniors and the kids and stuff like that. My experience is just being this nonprofit leader for 10 years and dealing with people in general and building and strengthening my leadership skills. Like we have our seniors going strong workshops. We have our kinship, we just started, grandparents raising grandchildren, and we have our JADA Gems, which we do in the different schools, but right now we're in Propel doing after school programming with our gems. I'm looking at my questions, Emily, so I'm making sure I answer them correctly. And the initiative that I have that I started, which I'm going to dive into that because that's important. I am also a board member of the Hazelwood Initiative. I just became a board member this year. So there's a lot going on in Hazelwood, as Emily has stated. And then I am the facilitator for Making a Greater Hazelwood initiative for the Heinz Endowment. And that torch was passed down to me from Chad Dorn, which I sadly to say that I recently heard Friday that Chad Dorn has passed away. It's really a difficult piece to grab because he was very influential in my leadership skills and guiding me and directing me into what I'm doing today. So that's a difficult piece, but I will be going to his memorial, which is today. It's in Monroeville. I did write down the information. I'll put it in the chat before I leave this call. But his viewing is today and his funeral is today in Monroeville. Making a Greater Hazelwood was a challenge again that Chad knew I can do it, as Emily thinks I can do this here community solution calls, but Chad trusted me to do the Making a Greater Hazelwood, and we've had some influential people on there. Of course, Emily was one of my guests. Demetra Bocello from Fashion Africana was one of my guests. This month, well, next month, Hans Endowment, Carmen Anderson will be our guest on that call, talking about the strategic plan of Hans Endowment, talking about their strategic plans so people will know what's going on when they go to do their proposals for grant funding. But also we have in Hazelwood going on as far as different initiatives is the co-op that Poor Law is doing right now, which is very important because Hazelwood is a food desert and they are looking for people to be on their committee. I will put their information as well in the chat. We also did a City in the Streets from Making a Greater Hazelwood, which I facilitate 41 community organizations together on one call when they show up to talk about the initiatives that they are doing in the community, like Literacy Pittsburgh, De La J, who is on the call right now, Main Street. A lot of different organizations are on that call to give input of what they are doing in the community. And we all collaborated, which was very, very nice with the city of Pittsburgh to do City in the Streets. And it was a success. We banged out the first time, but the second time it turned out really, really nice. So those are the initiatives that I know that the projects that I'm on. And we do need people to get involved. I want to stress that with that co-op because they are looking for community committee members to help them with this co-op that we need in our community, where we need fresh food, fresh vegetables. We need all that good stuff that we need to eat for our families in the community. I'm trying to think of anything else, Lori, am I missing? Because Lori is my backbone. She's like detailed. I can tell you what's going on. Lori can get the background of what's going on. So Lori, you can finish me off.
I'm not sure if you wanted to say it that way, but okay. Uh, Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Rue. The role that I play is I'm a partner in crime with Miss Terry in regards to getting things done for our community and Hazelwood. And like she said, in regards to our organizations, we serve more than just Hazelwood, but Hazelwood is at our heart and our basis, which is why we are located in that community. I'm born and raised in Hazelwood, like Terry was. And, we have left our community, we have done things other places, but what makes this, engaging, makes it rewarding is the fact that we're able to take all those skills that we've honed and built over our years, our long, long years of doing things for other communities and use them for the benefit of our own community. And so the role that we play as change agents is to ensure that we're using our powers, our superpowers, for the good of Hazelwood. And so we are always looking to one, I always say that I'm a Robin Hood of change, which is I give to the poor and I take from the rich, because we always know that knowledge is power, information is power. And a lot of our people, can't make decisions, can't be inclusive, can't be equitably involved if they're not knowing that information. And so the thing that me and Terry do that's very, very that we do very, very well is we bring those resources, that information, that power to the people who normally would not be able to have it. And we always make sure that whatever space that we're in, that we're making sure that we're telling the powers that be, we need our people at the table. We need to make sure that they are informed so that, how else can things move forward if people aren't informed about what's happening or involved in what's happening and having that opportunity. And so making sure that whatever, we may have control over or influence over, that we're able to bring that exclusivity to our people, because a lot of times, and we've worked in many different communities, that does not happen. We have people that come in and they make the decision for people, or they, manipulate the decision for our people, which can hold up anything that's good that can come into our communities, because the people feel that it's not for them. And so being those intermediaries that can help bridge those gaps and make sure that real information is getting to the people, and real power to be involved is great, which is why I was glad that Terri was able to take over, making a greater Hazelwood, because bless Chad, love Chad, but Chad was not from Hazelwood. And the fact that it's being led by somebody that's from Hazelwood, that loves Hazelwood, that continues to serve Hazelwood, and that is going to bring people to the table to be passionate about what we do in Hazelwood is a good thing. And so a lot of times in our positions and what we do and who we're connected to, Terri and I are informed about a lot of things that are happening, whether it's in regards to development, what's happening down on the green, what's happening within our community, and we're able to bring that information to the table, but more importantly, bring opportunities for people to be engaged and involved. And so that's what we're passionate about, right, Terri?
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention that the name of the co-op is the Sarah Innovation Center. That is being sponsored by, or being initiated by, Poor Law and Pastor Love, who has what is his church called? Praise Temple. Praise Temple. I'm
Thank you.
sorry. Praise Temple.
Don't call on me for that one.
They are the initiatives of the Sarah Innovation Center, which is getting ready to start, hopefully, and they're trying to get a steering committee. So I will put my information in the chat so you can contact me and I can give you their information.
Right.
Also, the URA, we have Gladstone, Innovation in Gladstone. There's 51 units. They're building the school and they're renovating the school to have 51 units, affordable and non-affordable housing in Gladstone, and that's coming soon. And you can sign up for that, and I can put the again my information in the chat so you can contact me so I can give you Hazelwood Initiatives information, because you have to sign up for those housing initiatives. Again, with the Making a Greater Hazelwood, not only did I had Emily Francis as a guest speaker. I had Marlene Williams from CSP Center for Shared Prosperities as a guest speaker. And I had, again, my sister, Demetra Bocello, who does Fashion Africana. She was a guest speaker because there was something going on with the Bill Nunn, I'm not Bill Nunn, August Wilson in the streets. And she had came and iterated that so people can join the party in the streets for August Wilson. But also, who else was on my, I think, this phone is ringing, it's distracting me because I'm in another space. But yeah, that's Making a Greater Hazelwood was very good for me to develop my better leadership skills and to continue to talk in front of folks I'd like to or don't like to sometimes. But yes, Lori, Hazelwood has a lot of things going on, and maybe you can add some more things because I'm drawing a blank. With the phone rings, I draw blanks, but there's some more things going on. Even with Main Street, they're building their own facility on Chatsworth. They have a new building coming up from the ground up, and you can elaborate more on that.
Well, yeah, and Terri alluded to. So let's start first with Making a Greater Hazelwood. So Making a Greater Hazelwood is a group of people, organizations and people who are serving Hazelwood, and so that came out of the leadership of the Heinz Endowments. And we were working with Heinz Endowments and the consultants, which Chad was one of. Who was the other person? Laura, I believe her name was Laura Johnson.
Laura Johns.
Johns, right. And so they came in and they worked with us in regards to having a collaborative team of people who are serving families and youth. And it was a way for us to come together to be able to share information, to collaborate, and to even go after funding to serve our joint purposes. So that's one of the things that we fought to make sure that it was continued, because we found value in that. And so that was allowed, even though it's no longer funded by Heinz, we do it out of love and passion. The other thing that's happening big time, like all across Allegheny County, southwestern Pennsylvania, is development. And we have development that's going on in different levels. And so development projects are happening down on Mill 19, which a lot of that development is coming through the funders who support that, which is Heinz as well as RK Mellon. And so we have some people who have taken residence down in the green. like Catalyst Connection, and some other entities. There's a shared office space component that's down there that's called Open
Townhouse.
Valley.
Right.
Right. And it's, similar to some of the other open shared office spaces that, it's a little high scale and, but it's not always, those places down in the green are not always accessible. It's separated by railroad tracks. And, to get to some of these locations, if you walked, you would be walking for a while. But if you're handicapped or, you don't have that accessibility, it could be challenging. There is a bus that goes down there that can take you to the spot where a lot of the facilities are. There's some new development that's going on down there. CMU is putting a robotics venue down there, as well as the University of Pittsburgh has collaborated with BioForge to put in a new facility that's going to be concentrating on the life sciences. Both of those entities are promising that there will be opportunities for residents to be able to work in those facilities, which is exciting. And it's taking us into those innovative type industries that are, in regards to health and energy and manufacturing and technology. So we're also looking at a new housing development that will be coming down there soon. They haven't finished all of their work, but it's going to be affordable housing that's also going to be accessible. And then the Stillers are looking to put in a youth stadium as well. Don't have the full details on all of that, but that's also in the works to come to our facility, which is all well and good if people can access it and get to it. On the main part of Hazelwood, the main avenue, we're looking to improve our business Main Street. And so there's some development that's coming there. One of them we're hoping will be the grocery store that would be in the initial section of Hazelwood when you first come in, which would be Hazelwood Avenue and 2nd Avenue. But there's also a housing development that will have some Main Street storefront. That's been in the planning for a while, so we're not sure where that is. We also have housing development that's going on, affordable housing that's going on. City of Bridges is currently in the process of finalizing their first phase of houses that are on Chatsworth, which tends to be right across from where we're located. We also have our development. My sister, who runs Deloge, which is the for-profit, she was smart enough when she bought her house in Hazelwood. She also bought adjoining property, and she sat on that for a while. And now it's to the point where we were able to build our offices there. So we have a 3-story building that's going in that was funded through some URA loans and grants, as well as Dollar Bank. My sister has learned a lot in regards to development because, we are doing this as a private entity. And so she actually became a general contractor with the city of Pittsburgh to take control over that, because there's a lot of challenges that go with development, which we didn't know until we got involved. Another goal is that Main Street will have on the second lot that she owns, will be putting in a 3-story handicap accessible building, and we're working on plans and funding for that. And then Terri already mentioned the affordable housing that's going to be phase 1 of the Gladstone. What used to be Gladstone School is now going to be apartments that's going to have affordable living. The phase 1 has been almost completed, and they still have to do phase 2. And then Hazelwood Initiative itself also does affordable home ownership programs as well. So that's, a lot of development that's going on in Hazelwood. I think some of you may have known some of the food places that have come into Hazelwood. We have Community Kitchen, which continues to expand upon what they do. And Community Kitchen not only provides skills for people to be able to work in the food industry or restaurants, but they also now have a small scale restaurant where they serve foods on certain days. They do catering, and they also have event space, which that is very important where we are, because we don't have a lot of space where you can host events or conduct meetings or large scale meetings at an affordable rate, especially for some of our small businesses or nonprofits that are in existence. Poor Law, a while back, was able to purchase an old church that sits on the corner of Johnston and Hazelwood. And they were able to get funding to start the renovations. There's still work that needs to be done, but they're hoping that that will be a place where they can conduct their programming, but also and hold their offices. But they also want to be able to have that as an open space for some of these smaller businesses that cannot afford Open Valley prices. And so, it's still a work in progress. And so I don't think, Terry, they have anybody in there yet because they're still working on the renovations.
They have one tenant in there right now. But nobody's like, they're not doing any programming right as we speak right now, but they do have the building.
Because as we know, development takes a lot of money. And so they were able to purchase the building and do some initial, but now have to do fundraising to finish that job. So we have a lot of initiatives going on. Hazelwood Initiatives does a lot of things. And Terry sits on that board. I'm also a member that attends meetings on a regular basis. They do a great job of keeping us informed about the different projects that are coming in. It's also a way that when people are coming into Hazelwood, they can either make a presentation through Making a Greater Hazelwood with Terry, and those tend to focus more on family and youth involved type programming, but they also can be a speaker and presenter at the Hazelwood Initiative. In fact, with Hazelwood Initiative being our community development corporation, they, in some cases, if they're looking to do development or large projects, they have to come through the Hazelwood Initiative to do the DAM meetings for the city of Pittsburgh. We actually had to do that in regards to our build to inform the public and let the public have an opportunity to ask questions and to answer those questions that are from the city of Pittsburgh or from the Hazelwood Initiative. And also, I was going to say that people can get involved, in a number of ways. They can directly contact Terry, or, mainly Terry, because she heads up the Making a Greater Hazelwood. They can request to become a member of the Hazelwood Initiative and attend those meetings. Those are the two strongest avenues to be able to be informed about what's going on, and then come out for the variety of events. We have a lot of events. Hazelwood tends to be a 50-50 almost in regards to population when you take a look at the breakdown in regards to the ethnic groups. We've always been that way. At one point in time, of course, we were the home of the steel mill, and so we had a very diverse working group that work the mills, and it reflective of our community, which tends to still be that. And so we don't have as many of the numbers in regards to high numbers of African Americans. It's 50-50 in regards to our population, but we still have those social economic needs that have affected other communities that have been affected by the closing of the mills. And so we're rebuilding our community, rebuilding our main street, working with the URA, where, Second Avenue is one of the avenues of hope that the URA has focused on in regards to business district. We have a ton of people who drive through our community at any given time, to the point where we had to put in speed situations because we've actually had people who have been killed on our main street. I think just last year or 2 years ago, we had a woman that died on Second Avenue from a major truck, because we have major traffic that comes through here. But that being said, we're also looking for traffic to stop, because La Gourmandine put their bakery here, which supplies all of their bakeries throughout the city of Pittsburgh. But we also have some private businesses that have been able to be on the main street too. So we have a couple stores, as well as we have a Hazelwood Cafe that's Black owned, we're proud of. Dalomontos, which is a small grocer, is down in Glenwood. It came about from a woman who used to do what was it? Yeah, she actually had a stand that would come out in the summer in the warmer months, and now she has a brick and mortar building. And then we have 111 Juice, who's coming into Hazelwood. They're going to be on the main avenue as well. And so we have some things that are happening, and then we want to see things improve. I think Hazelwood Initiative has plans for the empty lot that used to be Dairy Mart. I'm not quite sure. There's some kind of civic type plaza thing that they're going to be building. I believe they're going to put a building there, as well as have some space, because we host a lot of events, and being able to have that space where people can access the activities. We do host stuff down on the green, but sometimes that's challenging. And if you don't have transportation, it takes people back and forth. That could be challenging for the main people to come to, because Hazelwood is broken up into segments. We have Hazelwood, the main body. We have Glenwood. It tends to be towards the Glenwood Bridge that takes you into Hayes and West Mifflin. And then we have Glen Hazel, which is surrounded by forestry, and it sits up on top of Hazelwood. So that's what I have, Terry.
Thank you, Lori. You're my backbone. I love you so much. Also, for the Making a Greater Hazelwood, if anyone would like to be a participant and use the platform to showcase whatever you have going on or collaborate or be partners with Hazelwood in some type of way, please feel free to email me. And I'll put you on the platform for that segment of Making a Greater Hazelwood. I only do it once a month for an hour. It's every from 1 to 2 every month for an hour. And next month, which is soon, that's next week, we'll be having Carmen Anderson, who is the vice president of the Hines Endowment. So if anybody wants to have a platform, please see me. And thank you again, Emily, for allowing us to have this platform. Really appreciate it. And don't ask me again.
Thank you so much for that.
Any questions?
Oh,
You're on mute. You're on mute. Mr. Porter, you're on mute.
Hi, Lori said something was very interesting, and that I kind of support what she's saying. My thing about community and communities that are trying to survive, there's two things come to my mind. What is the condition of the community, and what is the community response? Now, in regard to support, there's times people come in and provide initiatives and service. It's not what the people in the community want. So I'll be telling people what I would recommend, suggest that you let these people know what type of support you need, and what way, how can I provide initiatives and services to support your need, not the way I view it. And Lord, you had a good point, because they might not need that. We don't know. So I just suggest that you ask people, what kind of support you can provide us, especially you got all these initiatives going on. And I think that's key. And you mentioned that you got a lot of businesses down there is coming in, companies and stuff. And that I believe also that you all would like to see community people get some of these jobs, correct? So in order for community people to get some of these jobs you're talking about, they have to have some type of job skill or training. And some of these companies that's there, I would suggest that you meet with them and ask them what type of jobs you have and what type of skills needed to fill them jobs, and we can get these people trained. I work for a staff company, and we do training. We have training initiatives, and I'm trying to push that not only in the city, state. We need to start training people according to what the jobs in hand. We train people just to be trained people. So you need to find out what are the job descriptions, what are the job duties, and we can somehow do initiative to train people to be able to fill these positions you have. But there's a lot of companies coming in with a bunch of jobs, and they don't know where to find people to fill these jobs. So that's something you might want to think about.
Well,
And
I would definitely say with the University of Pittsburgh and Bioforge, they already, before they even started building their building, had a plan to train people. They have I think it's a 2-year training program, where it's a paid training program. It's a way above minimum wage. I think it's like 19 an hour, and it starts with 18-year-olds and up. And basically, they're going to train them in different life skills, life sciences type jobs, so that it's preparing them not only to work for the Bioforge, but that's if they want to, but they may want to take what they have been trained in and go work someplace else. And they have definitely made that, they're going to make that accessible, because they've already engaged Terry and I in regards to those conversations. And they have people who serve on their steering committee that are from the community to help guide that.
That's nice. I'm glad you all are building up Main Street, because we got a lot of areas here in Pittsburgh that's disadvantaged, distressed, and underserved. We used to have, you said the mills, they moved out, which caused people, wow, no economic feasibility, is no revenue come to the community because the businesses are moving out. So we had to bring business back into these communities.
Right. And the ironic thing is a lot of people think because we still have mills here that we still have a lot of people that live here that work for the mills, but a lot of the people who work for our mills actually do not live in our area.
Correct.
Yes.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, John. Melody, or Dr. Carter Fry from our team just added to the chat, who is doing the trainings beginning at age 18 and paying $19 an hour. She would like a little bit more information about that opportunity.
Okay, so that opportunity will come into fruition once the Bioforge facility, University of Pitt facility, is done with construction. But that will be through the University of Pittsburgh, and that would be through their Office of Community Engagement.
Yes, yes. Heidi Ward.
Thank you so much for your question. And thanks for the quick responses, Terri and Lori. One of the things that's been really apparent to me in my conversations with you has been the interaction between community development requiring both nonprofits more support, but also investment in small businesses. And I think the two of you work really well at the intersection of those two things because it's different languages that these sectors speak. So what are some of the things that you've learned? Because I think there are a lot of initiatives and projects that are taking place in Hazelwood and Homewood and very specific communities throughout the city that are kind of like a microcosm for things that are happening throughout Southwest PA, throughout the state, throughout the country. And so, that's one of the things that I know you both have spoken very intentionally and frequently about in terms of what's required for community development. So I'm just curious if you have a kind of like a lesson learned or something that needs to be part of that kind of solution for the ones that have been successful.
My lesson learned for that one, because I'm gonna take this question on, is always engage the community. Always, always, always engage the community and break it down into layman terms, because a lot of us don't understand all this different language that they use. It's difficult because it was difficult for me when I first became the chair of the Greater Hazelwood Community Collaborative. But once I was the chair and learned all the lingo and the language, then I was more apt to tell them, well, can you break it down for someone like me who didn't know the language, and make sure you involve the community so they know what's going on. I don't like the part where the plan is already done and then you invite the community. Invite the community with the plan. Like you plan with the community, not plan and then ask the community what they want. Invite the community with the plan.
Just real quick, Dr. Danielle is on, and she is actually one of those community people that I said that is part of working with University of Pittsburgh on their steering committee. And so she is overseeing the workforce. She's the workforce coalition lead. And so you'll be able to actually, if you want to follow up on this, you can follow up with her directly. So that is so cool. Thank you, Dr. Danielle. And
Yes,
then
consulting
just to follow up
solution.
with what Terri said, it is, nothing can be cookie cutter. And it always, you have to meet people where they are. And you do really have to deal with the frustration, years of frustration of being excluded and not being at the table in an equitable way, in a real way. A lot of times when we're asked to be part of something, it's just a tokenism, it's just a checking off of the box, which is why we have so many things that are focusing on equity and inclusion and justice in regards to this. And so our role is that if we're at the table and we have the information and we want people to be engaged in a real way, is to bring that information to them and to help educate them and to help make sure that they are informed and engaged in a real way. And so that's our passion, and that's what we're passionate about, because we have been those people who have been just used as a checkoff box, and to include as many people as we know, because let's be clear about this. A lot of times people continuously bring in people from the outside with credentials, okay? Credentials, meaning that they have more trust in them because, they feel that they are qualified. We are super qualified. You know why we're super qualified? Because we don't just have the qualifications, the certifications. Guess what? We also have the lived experience, which is a lot of times way more valuable than those credentials. I take a look at all these simulations, like poverty simulations. We don't have to go through a simulation. We live through the simulation, so we have the lived experience. And so we can tell you how you need to deal with poverty. We can tell you how you need to deal with the workforce and the challenges, because we've been through those challenges. We have lived through those challenges. So we take our expertise, we take our qualifications, and we combine that with our lived experience, and we develop things that work. Why does our stuff work? Because we've been there, done that, and we are the people. So
Thank you so much. And I
sorry
saw a
about that.
couple other. Oh, it's okay. I was gonna say we've had this conversation. I've heard it echoed in a lot of different places too. I mean, this is something that, like with GPNP, as we're continuing to develop deeper hubs in various parts of Southwest PA, there's that nothing about us without us, and it is like in every single community, in every single city, where there is this unique lived experience, identity, and expertise that, and I will beat this drum forever, that the nonprofit sector and individuals who serve the most resilient communities, you just have it. And so I appreciate that. Thank you. One last question. So you mentioned, I think, Lori, you had mentioned some ways to get involved with specific initiatives, and Terri, you mentioned joining Making a Greater Hazelwood as a member of the group that meets on a monthly basis. Is there a newsletter or something that folks can kind of stay up to date between those meetings, or if there's something that's happening around the new market as things continue to develop, as there are info sessions, what's the best kind of next step for folks on the call?
We have a Hazelwood Initiative newsletter that gets distributed, I believe, monthly. I believe I can put in the chat the Hazelwood, and thank you, Danielle. Danielle has put something in the chat for me. I appreciate her. She's from Hazelwood too. Thank you, Danielle. But that is how you can get involved through that newsletter to get the information that you need to get. And also, like I said, again, I put my email address in there. I mean, my website address in there where you can get information on my website as well. But again, before we hang up this call, I do want to thank you again, Emily. I'm the teaser. You can ask me anytime to do anything for you, and I will. But this was challenging for me, but I appreciate everybody's patience. So thank you.
I got one last question.
Go ahead, John.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. To Terri and Lori, where is the part that the youth involvement with all this new environment, making it a better community for them? Would they, they will have to move to another community, or I could live here. We got groceries, we got parks and different things. Where do youth play? What role do they play on this new division?
Well, I know the grocery store, we just had a meeting with them last week at the YMCA and on Chatsworth Avenue, and that would be an initiative for the youth to be able to develop some skills, people skills, number skills, workforce skills to help with the community collaborative, because this community co-op is not just for the adults, it's for the children as well, right? So the children can develop some skills to learn how to manage, know how to conduct a business, those types of things. Because Pastor Love spoke on that because that question had came up.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, we do youth economic mobility. And so ours is about preparing the next generation. And so Terry and I ran a summer youth program through Learn and Earn Partners for Work last year. We weren't able to do it this year because we didn't get the funding to support it. But last year, we through multimedia production, we had the kids learn about the community, learn about the businesses and the nonprofits that are in there. And they actually went out and interviewed people. They photographed people. They did some aerial shots because we also do drone photography. And so they got a very intimate knowledge of who their community is, who are the people who are working in their community to do things. And so through our initiatives that we do, Terri talked about her youth component that she has. We have a youth component. Other people engage youth. The one group I forgot to talk about was the Greater Hazelwood, who was responsible for coming up with our community plan that is accessible through the city of Pittsburgh's community website. But Danielle included it in the chat. So it's the Greater Hazelwood.
Our hands, our plans, community
Yeah, our hands,
collaborative.
our plans. Right, exactly. That includes a component in regards to the next generation and their economic involvement, their community involvement as well. And Hazelwood has been very big in being very intergenerational in all the activities we do. And so there's always been anything that we have done. There's always been a piece that has been inclusive of our youth because we work with Propel Schools, we work with the different nonprofits that are here. And they also put components in that make sure that there's something that's always going to be engaging and positive and promoting for youth.
Absolutely. And mentioning Propel School, Hazelwood does, JADA House International does do a after school program with Propel Hazelwood, a workforce program with the children that are the eighth graders.
Right. And Propel's very opening to other organizations. They've had many different people come in and work with the children. Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us. One thing I want to mention too, because Terri, I feel like you always say this. You're like, I don't want to speak too much or, to present this morning, but also, every single time you knock it out of the park. So thank you so much for taking the leap this morning, both of you. I also want to shout out part of the reason that all of these things are successful and are going to continue to be successful is because of the work that you two are doing, the multi-generational empowerment work, being the glue between various sectors, and also making sure that in addition to these strategic kind of like high level pieces coming together, like making sure funding sources are funneled the right way, or the right nonprofits are collaborating with each other and a small business. There's also the one-off connections that I know you both facilitate for individuals on an ongoing basis. And so I think both are so needed in this development work. And so I want to thank you for joining us this morning and for continuing to do the great work that you're both doing at your respective organizations and also with each other, because it's incredible to see all of the different touch points that and positions that you either hold yourselves or who's doing this thing. And so I know that if I ever have a question, I'll go to either or both of you. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. If there are any final comments or things you want to leave folks with, please feel free, and then I can go into the policy update.
Yep.
I'm going
to put just I'm sorry, Terri.
No, I'm going to put the memorial for Chad Dorn if anybody wants to come out this evening.
And I was just going to check in the chat. Dr. Danielle also included the entire plan for our hands, our plans, as well as the updated executive summary. So, and I hadn't gotten that one, so thank you. The Kaleidoscope Summit Summary. Oh, that was the event that was hosted by University of Pitt to introduce the whole Bioforge information. That was a wonderful event where we were all able to come down, and they had my favorite thing, which is they fed me. So, and we were fed by local vendors, which was pretty cool because they gave an introduction to the Hazelwood Cafe as well as La Gourmandine as well as Community Kitchen. So that was a wonderful event. Oh, and then Deloge actually created the production that was shown at that event as well. And so we were able to participate on a different level in regards to that whole summit. So that was cool.
Thank you for saying that, because now I know how to properly pronounce Deloge. Thank you, Lori. And with that, I'm going to go into our policy update really quickly. We have updates kind of at all levels this week. It's been a pretty exciting couple of weeks in politics, as I'm sure everyone is noting and trying to stay up to date here. Also for, I mean, just global relations as we're well into Olympics and these 16 days are promised to be pretty action-packed. But at the US national level, and Beyonce was very real for saying complicated in her promo video. So President Biden has renounced his candidacy for a next term as president, and Kamala Harris, our current vice president, is going to be the Democratic nominee. So as I'm using the slides that Christine shared last week, the right side of the slide can kind of be discounted at this point, with others seeking nomination, as she will be the candidate for the Democratic candidate for president. There is already a campaign apparatus in place. There were a lot of conversations, and President Biden had made a decision after speaking to multiple donors and ensuring funding and support for ongoing campaigns. And so there already are campaign and affiliated group funds that are dedicated to support Vice President Harris as she moves into the Democratic nominee seat. So August 19th, next step, Democrats will gather in Chicago for the DNC. And this is where there will be a formal vote for presidential candidate, and the making sure that there are enough votes for nomination. If you looked at the recordings of the RNC or watched updates live, you saw the process for how this was done live and on the floor for candidate JD Vance, who is the running mate for former President Donald Trump. So there's not a modern precedent for announcing a would-be running mate under these circumstances around the pledged delegates who can submit a vote. And so at this point, we're looking for the finalization on the Democratic ticket and following debates that will take place between the two presidential nominees. Early reporting has indicated that former President Trump would not want to do another debate. And there were conversations earlier this year about having a very early first debate, which President Biden participated in, because there was some question about who the right nominee for the Democratic Party would be. So now that there's a lot of support and attention around Vice President Harris, and that seems to be the party decision. We're waiting to hear for final decisions on who the running mate is going to be. At this point, we have heard that our very own Governor Josh Shapiro is in the top 3 selection positions, and additionally Mark Kelly. So really quickly, I know you all know who Governor Josh Shapiro is, as he's from Pennsylvania, but Mark Kelly is currently a senator in Arizona. He was formerly a U.S. Navy combat pilot, and really came to his position as a senator in Arizona by appealing to working families and not corporate special interests. So that was a cornerstone of his campaign to get elected as senator. And he's previously been a public servant and earned a bachelor's degree in marine engineering and nautical sciences from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and a master's in aeronautical engineering from the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School. And so in looking at running mates, you can see that former President Trump selected JD Vance, likely because of the representation of interests of the common man or common person in the United States. And JD Vance is the author of Hillbilly Elegy and has a connection to very impoverished sections of the United States, particularly white impoverished sections of the United States. And similarly, for Vice President Harris, selecting a running mate, one from a swing state like Governor Josh Shapiro or Senator Mark Kelly, and somebody that has, again, the appeal to the common U.S. citizen at this time, seems to be a really clear priority for both parties in terms of selecting a running mate. Really quickly, last week, I shared a list with our public policy committee and then also linked in the newsletter that the Pennsylvania State Budget Overview, a really great resource was recently provided by Spotlight PA. So last Thursday, there was a presentation in the evening going through the $47.6 billion state budget. And a couple of the key investments are an increase to public education funding, new dollars into economic development, with some caveats. There were not all of the things in the budget that Governor Josh Shapiro had initially proposed or wanted. And there were some compromises on both sides of the aisle in terms of what is actually in the final budget. But it does provide a one-time boost for transit systems and creates a new college scholarship program. It is notable that past budget conversations also kind of waffled towards the end because of conversations in education investment. So the private school vouchers that really delayed last year's state budget and also created some tension for this year's state budget, they were not cut. So the current $47.6 billion budget does not cut the personal income tax or appropriate taxpayer money for private school vouchers, as the Senate Republicans initially wanted. It also doesn't okay many of the economic investment pieces that Governor Shapiro initially proposed in his budget in January. A couple of examples are recreational cannabis legalization or regulating slot-like skill games. The other major points from this recent budget are investments in transit infrastructure, since that's something that multiple members of at least our Southwest PA House of Representatives have really been pushing and making sure that there's investment in transportation infrastructure. And speaking with the senior centers recently, I also know that making sure that the bus lines and ensuring that there are bus stops available to provide equitable access to transportation throughout communities and in and out of major cities is really important. And so making sure that there's a note for increases to transit infrastructure investment, looking at development dollars that can be sent to local governments and then invested in small businesses, like some of the Main Street projects that Lori and Terri were talking about in Hazelwood, an investment in solar as alternative energy, and then specific tax cuts and credits that have been proposed by both sides of the aisle throughout conversations. The budget, I got a note during the presentation this morning that the budget brief was recently posted to the Spotlight PA website. And so if you're curious or want to listen to that, have it on in the background as you're working today, I highly encourage you to go to the Spotlight PA website and listen to the overview that was shared last week. It was a really wonderful panel discussion that got into some of the high level pieces, talked about trends in what the last couple of budgets have looked like for the state of Pennsylvania. But also I remember 2 months ago, we talked about mental health investment and the fact that the Council of County Commissioners throughout Pennsylvania had mentioned that the needed level investment in mental health services and supports, in addition to county-based funding, is somewhere close to $250 million to address the need. And what's in the current budget is about $20 million dedicated towards mental health line items. However, in 2025 and 2026, that amount is expected to increase to about $60 million in those state budgets. So just keeping an eye on some of the different perspectives at the high level, and again, at the nitty-gritty item by item pieces as well. And Bree, I know we're at 11 o'clock. If you want to launch the poll as I give the last couple of updates, please feel free. And thank you folks for joining us and staying on an extra couple of minutes this morning. Really quick, as another statewide note, the Pennsylvania unemployment rate is 3.4%. We'd be in trouble if that was the employment rate. But this is below the national average of 4.1. And during the past year, this has been an ongoing trend, decreasing below the national average, which is a great thing. And there was a record job growth in the month of June, particularly in education and health services. A note from this report also included that inflation is falling as nominal wages are growing steadily, and the persistence of combined effects is helping the labor market recover from the turbulence over the last couple of months, certainly, but really years. And the number of non-farm jobs rose to a record high of more than 6 million for the state of Pennsylvania, which, as far as agricultural investment goes, is pretty significant for the non-agricultural positions. And looking at full employment, that's not really a realistic goal for a state to be at full employment. There are healthy levels of unemployment for each state, and depending on markets or ebbs and flows of the economy. And so we're expecting that it's not going to continue to drop. It'll probably level out around 3.2%, which might be the new healthy rate for Pennsylvania. I do want to put a final warning and reminder. Hannah from CMU did present a couple of weeks ago on our call for community solutions about the Southwest Pennsylvania New Economy Collaborative and the Block Center at CMU, establishing an RFP process to upskill, establish new programs, and support job growth in areas like robotics, advanced manufacturing, additional training for 4-year and advanced degrees, and ensuring that these programs evolve based on industry needs. That was a big focus of some of the questions, especially from John this morning, making sure that the job training is responsive to what the needs of the market are. And so the Block Center is seeking applicants to be able to funnel some funding to. Allocations are expected to be between $60,000 and $100,000 for project cycles completed within a 12-month time frame. So anybody who's interested in that, just as a reminder, the deadline is July 31st, which is this Wednesday, and at 5 p.m. So make sure you get your RFP applications in. And our 2.0 version of our AI cohorts is going to be launching not August 8th, August 5th is the first one. The 7th is the launch date for cohort 3, which is the employing your own AI tool or digital assistant. The links to these recordings and info sessions are shared in the chat. Thank you, Bree, for adding those. And I'll be reaching out to folks today, tomorrow, Wednesday for final reminders for people who are interested in joining those sessions. The first cohort is the human-centered design focus. And so making sure that for any technology you're adopting as an organization, you're being really strategic about how you're employing the staff support and time to be able to upskill. The cohort 2 is on persuasion and influence. And so looking at how, not only for development, but for advocacy purposes, for relationship building, you're building your personal and organizational persuasion and influence skill set. So, and leveraging technology to do that quicker. So regardless of how you're engaging folks, whether that's a donor or a person who's really in need of your services, and you have to try to convince them to get some support, making sure that the persuasion and influence toolkit is informed by the ethics and mission of your organization is the purpose of cohort 2. And then cohort 3 again is employing your own AI tool that is specifically crafted to support the voice, tone, and culture of your organization and be available 24/7 to engage folks on critical calls to action as you want it to be. So I just wanted to put those reminders in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the poll this morning. I am going to stop sharing my screen. Thank Terri and Lori once again for sharing a little bit about the work that you've been up to and how we can continue to support and get involved. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Please feel free to reach out to me, Emily@ForbesFunds.org, if you have any questions, if you would like to be an upcoming speaker. And we're really excited for the calls that we have planned for the remainder of this year in Q3 and Q4. Thanks, everyone.